welcome to episode 67 of the Comic Watchers Show. I'm your host, Matt Meyer, coming at you from Oklahoma City. With me, as always, are the fantabulous Watchers, Mike Eakins and Nick Osborne. Gentlemen, how are you this week?
I'm good. I can't complain. You know,
okay.
Wintry, snowy mix over here. And like I said, Virginia's going to shut down for the next 6 months. But no, we're good. We're good.
Hey, nothing wrong with the town shutting down for 6 months, right? Yeah. Mike, I like your mug.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Very appropriate. Nice. This week we are going all in on Marvel's brand spanking new Wolverine #1. Holy cow. That's right. That's right. Mike is bringing the props. So before we dig into that, though, as ever, we've got the news of the week with Scoop Johnson.
News with Scoop. Who is that guy? All right. First of all, we're going to start off with some Marvel, with some variant covers. Because Dark Side variant covers the whole month of May. You're going to see Amazing Spider-Man, Cap, Deadpool, some really cool looking covers, amongst others. Obviously, it's just not those three. But just to give you an idea of what titles they're, Marvel's obviously, all the heavy hitters are going to be hitting. The cool's really cool.
Mike,
what's that?
Is this just a theme for variants, or is this a lead-in or an advertisement of sorts for some kind of a series that's coming up?
I believe it's just a variant. There's really nothing solid that I've seen that I would want to report as far as, Comic Watch and what we want to try to keep, hey, we think it's going to, go this way. But right now it's just covers for the month of May. Like I said, they're really cool. But I miss the days where you would run to your LCS for that variant cover because you didn't see variant covers a lot, But it's cool. But they're cool. That's just my opinion. But definitely check out the Dark Side variant covers on the site. They're really, really cool. Empire X-Men 1 is this is actually really cool. I thought I was getting, and we kind of discussed this earlier amongst us in our little chat room. I thought I was getting tired of the whole X-Men Krakoa thing until the whole Empire X-Men thing happened. This sounds really rad. It's a who's who of X-Men writers. You got Hickman, Howard, Duggan, Percy, Williams. They're sending the X-folks back to Genosha to face an army of mutant undead. So this sounds really cool. Looks really cool. We got the first two covers and information up on the website right now. So go check that out as well. For my Army of Darkness folks, who doesn't love Army of Darkness and Ash, right? I know, I was like, exactly, right? So from Dynamite, and they just, let me pause right here. Dynamite just, hokey or not, they really have a tendency to put out some really great books for, just for pop culture, for indie stuff. Dynamite really puts out some really good stuff. But anyway, they really have a niche for that stuff. But anyway,
Peter Cannon last year, that miniseries by Kieran Gillen was one of the best things published last year, hands down. And nobody talked about it. It was crazy.
Yeah, I don't think we talk. Honestly, I don't think we talk enough about IDW and Dynamite. I think those are two companies.
I agree with that.
That absolutely produce some of the best books on the shelves right now. I'm sorry, Nick. Go ahead. I didn't mean to talk on top of you.
No, let's do a Vampirella show. I'm here for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she, Vampirella. We should do like an all-female type of empowerment show. That'd be really rad.
As dictated by 3 white men.
Well, thanks for joining Comic Watchers, by the way.
We might want to invite at least one of our female writers for the show, for that show.
Anyway, so rewind back to Dynamite, they're releasing Death to the Army of Darkness. It's a new series by Ryan Parrott, who has did some work on the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and Jacob Edgar, who has recently done some Red Sonja stuff. Story takes place about 6 months after the trilogy, which we all know. If you don't, maybe you go to your local movie store. I don't know if Blockbuster's still a thing. Maybe you rent some tapes for a Friday night, get some popcorn going, and learn about the Army of Darkness and Ash. Anyway, it's going to introduce Team Ash. It's going to comprise of a female Ash, a canine Ash, skeleton Ash, and Ash's chainsaw. And the great thing is all these Ashes are supposed to represent like his feminine side, his loyal side, which is the canine, and the skeleton, which is more of like the murderous dark side type deal. So this book really looks interesting. And like we said 10 minutes ago when we started talking about Dynamite, they just put out really good stuff. So this is something to definitely check out. That's going to hit your shelves. April 15th is issue 1. And for my Star Wars folks, whoever may know a thing or two about Star Wars, IDW, shocker, we're talking about IDW again, Star Wars 6, Luke gets a new lightsaber. This was really cool, and not to plug the press department, but when the press department released this was kind of neat, because what the story is going to take off of is after the Cloud City duel, Luke kind of goes into this search of the galaxy's mysteries. Is his lightsaber lost? We don't know, but now he has a new one, and so he's kind of in search of all the answers that the galaxy kind of is asking and stuff. So that looks really good. So that's from IDW, and that looks really awesome as well. We got some first looks and some sneak peeks. AWA Zombie Apocalypse 0 Hour. For our regular watchers, we talked about AWA last week. But so now one of their books that they're going to be coming out with is, so basically it's a Japanese hitman, a Mexican street urchin, and they're kind of with a bunch of groups of survivors that are trying to survive, if you will, a horrific global epidemic, who must draw upon their unique skills and their deepest instincts to navigate a world of shambling dead. So, and once again, we've talked about this before. What I see as a current trend, post-apocalyptic world, zombies, undead type stuff, which is good, which can be good. And the art that we have on the website looks really good. And I think it just depends on just the overall writing, because zombies are like hamburgers, right? Everyone likes hamburgers, everyone likes zombies, but there's a huge difference in say, like, you go into Five Guys for a burger and you go into McDonald's for a burger, right? Same thing, but they're just doing different ingredients and stuff like that. So
what if I want a Royale with cheese?
Oh, it could be a Royale with cheese, by the way. That's a really good lob and assist right there. That's pretty good. But no, this looks really good. AWA is a really unique company. We talked about them a little bit last week, so definitely check them out. Definitely a company that I would say, don't be afraid to get away from the big two. The big two does have good stuff. I'm not taking away from them. But there is a lot of really good indie books out there, especially non-superhero books out there that are really good and definitely deserve time, definitely deserve to be on your pull list. That is the news. Wait a second. That is not the news.
No. Not yet. I don't know exactly when it was announced, but it caught my eye today that favorite miniseries of this show, Kanto, is getting a return engagement in May with a new one-shot. Yeah.
So cool.
I forget the name of it. Sorry, but it's coming. And it's coming. Creative team is the miniseries, David Boer and Nick, help me out. Those other guys.
Those guys.
And those guys. They rule, though. Kanto is a thing of freaking beauty.
Drew
Start to finish.
Zucker. It was.
Yeah.
It's Kanto and the Clockwork Fairies from
That was
David
it.
Brewer and Drew Zucker. So
So,
yeah, it looks really cool. And yeah, we were huge
Yeah.
on the Kanto, so super excited for that one.
yeah, Kanto. We're big friends of that miniseries on this show.
Mhm.
So, Mike, is there anything else that you'd like to wrap up with for the news of the week?
We are actually going to do a very smooth transition. I am talking about fresh blacktop, lay dried on a major highway type smooth. IDW, shocker, has released art finally for the June release for Snake Eyes Dead Game by who other than the Rob father, Rob Liefeld. Big fan of the show, huge comic watcher himself. But yeah, we got some art on. Obviously, if you follow his Twitter feed, it's all over there. Fans are just going, kind of flocking to it and spreading it. And it looks really good.
Say, I mean, just based on what we saw, it's the best looking Liefeld art I've seen in probably decades.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and I'm not trying to say that and be an ass about it. It legitimately looks good.
Yeah, it's really good. And what we talked about earlier, and what I put in our company chat. This is some stuff that I think that Rob could kind of redeem himself a little bit. We're not going to talk about the stuff he did before Snake Eyes Major X, but I think Rob has. I think this could be really good, especially this coincides with the release of the movie that's coming up, and I wish I could remember the director who is doing Snake Eyes, but it's the same guy who did Crazy Rich Asians. And exactly, now with Crazy Rich Asians, I've never seen the movie, but I do know that it was a huge box office hit. Huge box office hit. That same guy, I want to say his last name is
John Chu.
Oh, what's that?
I believe it's John Chu.
Okay, I'll go with that. But it could be John Chu. But yeah, so I mean, this could be kind of good. This could take something and really send it into the stratosphere. And now we're going to kind of smoothly transition into this week in Liefeld. And what started as a complete just barnhouse fire of a tweet of Harley Quinn and Ronald McDonald. And it was just bad. It's just bad. Let's not criticize, costumes and stuff like that, 80 pouches. And I celebrate the man and his many pouches. But I mean, but later as the week went on, and I feel this is solely my job at Comic Watch. It's not even really news or press anymore doing this one. It's really just watching Rob Liefeld's, Twitter feed, which is fine.
His occasional self-immolation.
Yeah, which is fine. I'll take one for the team. It's fine. But and it later turned into where he was like, well, he kind of backtracked a little bit. It was like, no, I wasn't trying to be, negative about the outfits and the costumes of the movie. He was just trying to say, well, look what happened when they first did Deadpool and Ryan Reynolds, right? With the no mouth and all that stuff. And then they kind of revamped everything and Deadpool shot off. And what I took it as is he was trying to say where Harley Quinn and, Margot Robbie and stuff could kind of take off after the initial oops, because it's kind of, I don't want to say well known, but it's known that, Margot wasn't a fan of her Suicide Squad costume, and she didn't exactly right.
What is he like? What is he saying that she should be like than the classic Jester suit?
Right, and that's where it kind of took off, because I don't think his tweets were very descriptive, and it wasn't until Seeley kind of jumped in on and was like, well, what do you kind of, what are you saying? What are you kind of trying to, and it almost felt like he was trying to kind of help Rob and kind of, what do you want to say? Because it's not like you're negging, Margot Robbie and Birds of Prey and Harley Quinn and her portrayal and yada, yada, yada. But what do you want her to be? We get it. The whole Debbie, you found a picture of Debbie Harry, got it from CBGBs in the 70s. We understood, got it. Google works. But why? Like, why would you post that? Like, we get it. Warner Brothers, we talked about it on the last show, Warner Brothers with the advertisement and stuff like that. But it's like, why? That's the eternal question with This Week in Liefeld is why? It's always why. You know what I'm saying?
He Googled some comic covers and noticed that they looked different than what he saw from the marketing of Birds of Prey film, and decided to comment on it. And to that, I say, read a comic.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Like if you look at who she is in the modern comics, this is pretty in touch with what she's looked like.
Oh, definitely. For a good at least 15 years.
Yeah. Like, is he advocating for the
kind of like, and his the whole thing that he was getting at is the movie, quote unquote, should have gone with the original classic look. That's debatable, but he kind of has it kind of speaks to his tendency to never want comics to change.
Right.
Right. Harley Quinn should always dress like this. Mm-hmm. Nobody should ever evolve Deadpool or Cable past his minimal contributions to their origins. I said it. And 90s style bombast should never go out of style. Talking heads are bad in comics and blah, blah, blah. He's stuck in the past and he has no real way. And we've talked about this before. He seems to not have a way of moving himself forward. And I kind of feel like ultimately that's where this mess with the Harley Quinn outfit really comes from. And maybe I'm wrong. I'm not in his head. But, at the end of the day, dude dunked on a costume when his own sense of design is questionable at best. So let that be the end of that. Ooh. So, Scoop, do we have any more news?
No, Scoop is done.
Scoop is done. Scoop is retired for the night.
Scoop is done. Thanks for tuning in for this week.
Yeah, the show's not over.
Exactly. Oh, it's not over yet. Okay.
We're going to do more than just rattle about news for almost 20 minutes. So this week in the funny books, we got a triple-sized #1 issue of Wolverine, courtesy of Marvel. That's the guy. Old Patchy McLogan himself is back in his own eponymous book for the first time since, I want to say, 2014. We've had all new Wolverine. We've had Old Man Logan. We've had Dead Man Logan. We have had Wolverine with an Infinity Gem for some god-awful reason, but we haven't had a Wolverine. So it's go time. Benjamin Percy wrote it. Adam Kubert and Victor Bogdanovich drew it. 2 separate stories apiece, rounding this bad boy out. So, guys, without further ado, Wolverine #1.
Amazing.
Let's go. The plot, as it is, and of course it ties in. It's really hard to see out of this thing. The plot, such as it is, which is quite a good plot, it stems out of the current Dawn of X, as all things X-Men tend to do right now. And as it turns out, some of the petals from their Krakoa flowers that are getting shipped around the world to make awesome medicines, the petals are going missing. And they're getting turned into a new drug called pollen that is starting up a new street war. Very bad stuff. So Wolverine is sent to investigate. and from there things just get bad. So let's roll with this. Nick, what you got, brother?
Loved it. Like, so happy Wolverine is back. Oh, and you can make this quadruple sized. I don't care. I'll still read all of it. The first story you have with Krakoa is awesome because, I mean, if you followed along with the story or anything involving Hickman's Revolutionary X-Men, I guess, reboot, it's great.
I think reboot's the right term.
I think reboot's effective. But it fits Wolverine within that narrative and within that story really well, and it kind of brings him to the forefront of it and explores, I thought, an interesting way of him being happy amongst all this. There's been a lot of almost role reversals happening since Krakoa came into the Marvel Universe, and seeing this take on Wolverine was pretty cool, but I don't want to spend too much time on that one because it's the second story that just blew me away.
Okay, hold on. I want to get to the vampires here in a minute because they were totally awesome. But there's enough meat on this bone to for us to treat it like two books. So hold your horses there, Mr. Horror Guy. Let's talk about bad mutant pollen drugs.
Bad mutant pollen drugs. Like, they were great. They really were. I loved that influence and kind of that story of, it ties into the real world a little bit and how the influence of Krakoa has spilled out in unimaginable ways kind of at the beginning. This is the concept that's introduced. This is kind of what got your imagination going. Like, they're bringing all these drugs to people. Well, surely something's going to go wrong. This is what goes wrong. And I think that's a really cool exploration, but it was an awesome first part of the story for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. So I wanted to say, and we'll I'm not forgetting about you, Mike, I promise. But the art, Adam Kubert, baby. Like, listen, any Kubert you're talking about is going to turn out a quality product. But Adam Kubert's my guy. Now, he goes back clear to the 90s with Wolverine. He's got a lot of love, a lot of history there. And man, did it show in this issue.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, holy crap. I genuinely hope he sticks around for more than the first arc. When you're talking about big superstar creators anymore, that's iffy at best. But, fingers crossed. So, Mike, Wolverine #1, story A.
Story A. I will say that the book as a whole was good, but one thing that I will say that Percy did well was separate the two stories. I'm not a fan of the first one. I thought it was just it felt, and I don't mean this in a bad way, it's going to sound bad, but I really don't mean it in a neg way. I really, really don't. But it kind of felt like a roller coaster, like when you're kind of starting up on the incline, right? And you're just like tick, 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 tick. And then when you're at the top, and you're like, oh, we're going to go down. It's going to be a loop. It's going to be so fast. It's going to be great. And it really felt that you were going down about maybe 10 miles an hour. And you're looking at the rest of the amusement park going, this is lame, but it's still a cool ride. And that's what I felt with the first story. Like, I totally get the Bannister, and we were pulling out some heartstrings with Bannister and his daughter and stuff like that, and the stealing of the petals and people using pollen for, bad choices and stuff. But I was torn because at the same time, as I read this over and over again, I'm like, God, it's a Wolverine story, but it misses. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, I can't honestly say what it misses, like we started with the Krakoa thing, and I'm going to go on a limb, and I know our ex-freaks are probably going to like, oh, how can the guy with the beard? I'm almost at my end with the Krakoa story, and I get it. I really do. X people, I get the Hoxpox, man, I'm down with it. But the whole Krakoa thing and Magneto kind of not being Magneto, I need Magneto to be Magneto, if that makes sense. But this whole thing with the pollen and Krakoa, I don't know. Maybe I missed something. I went back. I don't know. The first part of it was good, but like I said, I really wish I could pick off like what it missed, and maybe it just didn't resonate. I mean, I feel it's a Wolverine story. It's definitely a Wolverine story. I felt it. It had its Wolverine kind of aspects to it, but it was just one of those things where I was just like, God, it's missing something, you know? And especially when you get into the later part of the book, you know, Percy, like, dude, you went off on the second part of the book, and I'm going to say that for the second part of the show, obviously, but I just felt that and I totally appreciate that he's completely separated the stories, but it just felt like the first part was just lacking something, you know? And you had that panel to where Wolverine was like, oh, give me the X-Force, and I need a force on the ground, and yada, yada, yada. Like, oh, something's about to happen. Like something great. And then once again, we're going up, and then we're going down very slowly. Overall, I'm not going to fully neg it because obviously I don't write comics. I don't have that talent. But I enjoy the story, but I was just, to me, overall, there was something missing, and I wish I could just bring that out. But yeah,
so let me speculate a little bit, because you've got some dots there that I think you didn't quite connect internally. So
sure.
I think what you're talking about is Krakoa fatigue. And here's the thing. All these X-Men books are coming out, right? And there's, God help us all, 4 more over the next couple months being added to the lineup. And I'm sure they'll all be fine to varying degrees. But here's the thing. They're all tied to this central story of Krakoa and the New Mutant Society and the future events that were predestined perhaps over in Hoxpox. And it's exhausting. And somebody in our group chat today made a really good point that it's not unlike the Triangle era of Superman, except you're getting 2 or 3 issues every single week instead of 1, right? So there's that. But also, this issue, and I won't say fails, because I truly enjoyed this issue quite a bit.
No, absolutely.
But at the same time, because it's tied into Krakoa so heavily and what's going on there, it feels like an extension of that story rather than a full-blown Wolverine story. Now, second arc there gets rectified a little bit, and we're getting to it, Nick. I promise. We're getting to the vampires. And but Wolverine #1. Let's say random fan picks this #1 up in 10 years. It's Wolverine #1. This is this will be an excellent place for me to jump in on the adventures of Logan. And she reads it, and they're like, what the hell is all this Krakoa stuff? I just want Wolverine.
Right.
And I think that right there is kind of where the book doesn't meet your, or maybe a lot of people's expectations, is the fact that it's not separated enough to truly justify standing on its own. I mean, it really feels like just an extension of X-Force or the main X-Men book, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's just where the X-Men are right now. Is massive interconnectivity. And I mean, on the one hand, it's been a great rejuvenating factor for the line. I mean, how long has it been since people were this hyped about X-Men, right?
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's been a great campaign for him. Absolutely has.
Absolutely.
And you hit it right on the nose. It's like, as soon as I open it up, like, oh God, we're going to Krakoa. Shit, here we go again.
Right.
Pardon my French, but I'm just like, God, with this damn place, would Magneto just blow something up and go do Magneto stuff? Like, please, like, stop making Wolverine. Like, why would you send Wolverine? And this is going to go into the second part, but why are you sitting here telling Wolverine to go clean up? I'm not going to say that yet, but it's just like, yeah, it's maybe it's Krakoa fatigue, like you said, because I'm just like, as soon as I open it up, I'm like, oh, here we go again, with this damn island.
Right. Too much of a good thing, especially in too short of amount of time. And, speaking a little bit more broadly beyond this issue, I have to wonder, especially with Kid Cable, X Factor Volume 39 or whatever, Hellions, what's the other one? Children of the Atom, plus all the various giant size one-shots. Like, how long are we before we hit a saturation point?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, honestly, I think we're seeing, and not to turn off and exit, but I think we're seeing that saturation point, at least for me, because it's like, we've seen this story before. You know what I'm saying? It's like, Hawks Pox, it was like they had something going and they just rode it, and they're riding it, and they're riding it, and they're riding it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I enjoy, Hickman's is one of my guys, but I'm just kind of like, oh, here we go again.
Well, and speaking to that, I mean, we know Hickman likes to play the big long game, and he, sometimes his stories tease out literally for years. Is that going to be the case with his era of the X-Men? How many more books is that going to mean? Oh my God, how long before we're all just sick of talking about it, right?
Yeah, right.
And I like you said, I fear we may already be seeing that. And I think by the time summer gets here, we'll have a better gauge of that with the addition of the newer books. But I mean, and we got off on a little bit of a tangent there about the X-Men, state of the X-Men in general. But to kind of pull that back into this issue and this story, like, I mean, it sounds like we hate this comic.
No,
we don't. We actually really liked it. But I like seeing Wolverine playing detective a little bit. That opening sequence where like a third of his flesh is just gone and you see him slowly re-knitting together. That was beautiful.
Awesome.
Beautiful stuff. Beautiful art, beautiful coloration. Man, the art team just knocked it out of the freaking park. Like, my biggest gripe with the first story. And I like Agent Bannister. Like, typically these FBI type characters tend to be dime a dozen. This guy is kind of like, what if the dude had a gun? And he's like walking into crime scenes in sandals and a Hawaiian shirt and a big old beard. Dude is awesome. But he's got this. If the Big
Lebowski was in Marvel Comics, it would be Bannister.
Yes. I like that. I can't wait to see how this guy plays off of Wolverine, because I think there's some great characterization to be had there. My biggest thing, and I guess we're going to have to get slightly into spoiler territory, is the way that the first story ends with apparently amnesia.
Yeah. Which
maybe that's not the case. Maybe that's just what we're supposed to think. But, dude, Percy, you are much better than an amnesia cliffhanger.
Yeah.
I hope. There was some spirited debate yesterday amongst us about the relative merits of Benjamin Percy as a writer. Now, I came out and defended him, but he had, he does lack consistency.
Well, and I think that goes back to what I said before. I think he does a great job at distancing these stories, and where the first story, my God, what are they? I can't remember. But anyway, from what he did, on the cliffhanger was kind of like, really? Okay. But then he kind of revamped himself and reclaimed it. Yeah, right? You know, he was like, well, you know, I don't know how to end this first story. Oh, amnesia. That's good. And then what we'll do is, you know, end the second story. But yeah, I totally get it. But, you know, and I totally respect that because part of that.
Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying that part of that is like what really kind of, I don't want to say like blew my mind, but like, you know what, I can kind of respect that because it was like, you know, I felt that Percy was like, you know, we're going to do this story and it's going to kind of fall in line with what the current Krakoa X line is, what they're doing now. And then we're just going to abruptly stop it. And then the second story is that's where you went to Olive Garden and you got the all-you-can-eat pasta, salad bowl, breadsticks, and stuff like that. And you just kind of gorged yourself because you're like, yeah, give me more, give me more. And it wasn't until probably about the third time around I read this book where I was like, you know, and, you know, cover your ears, kids. Like, you son of a bitch. Like, you, I get it. I get it. I see what you did there. Because that, to me, that first story really sets you up to something going, you know what? There has to be more. Let me turn that next page. Let me see that next panel. And it was almost like, I feel that first story was it was bait. It was bait. If you ever fished off a pier, the first story was bait. The second story was that tuna, that, you know, 100-pound, 200-pound tuna that you caught off that second story.
Okay.
Oh, but yeah,
yeah. Let's talk about the second story.
Mike, I think that's an excellent segue to wake Nick up and bring him back into the conversation.
Vampires.
Full bore into the Wolverine versus Vampires second story.
Yeah.
Nick, it's your time to shine, buddy.
I think we beat that horse about it being pretty lame. Yeah. To move on to the exciting part. Yeah, I think it addresses Krakoa fatigue concerns because you've got an entire new vampire nation rising. You can get away from that whole aesthetic, that whole landmark, the entire concept, and kind of get thrown into a great Wolverine story. It's got like everything I would want in it, from, you know, Dracula to Louise, the new Night Guard warrior against the Vamp Nation. Everything about it is so cool. Like, this is ultimately what I would want. But I don't think the two-story concept even works in this, because you inevitably want to compare them or want to find some type of consistency between how they work in the storytelling, because they're part of the same book. So to say, you know, these are entirely separate stories, you could just read one and then not read the other and follow it along, I don't buy that. Like, not for a second, because ultimately, like, if that's what you're going to do through how many issues, tell two ongoing but entirely different narratives, that's not going to work. You're going to get a lot of complaints out of that, and people are going to get tired of it. So are these stories going to be brought together? Does the Vampire Nation have some sort of influence on the, you know, the pollen being spread out in that sort of underground trade? So I think that there's something of like an empire or dynasty conflict at play here, where you're seeing two nations in a sense rise, and there's going to be a lot of conflict that involves nations on Earth and those people. So I think that comparison is what I wanted to explore more, but the book wanted you to treat these as two separate stories. And in that, yeah, of course I'm going to go for the vampire story with freaking Dracula in it. Like, obviously that's so badass. Like,
your race home,
but like,
there's no bias there, of course.
Yeah, like, that story is so strong. I want to see the arguably weaker first half of it play into it and create this concept that, or an ongoing story that brings all of this together and doesn't want you to keep it separate in your mind even when you're reading it. I think that was kind of what I want to see out of the series now going forward. Even though we've got the Vampire Nation, the Night Guard forces that I gotta see more of, and of course Wolverine, like them shoving the plug in Wolverine's neck and trying to drain him for blood. You know, give me
just a straight beer tap.
Yeah,
I need the adamantium.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many scenes in this and panels that you get finally, you know, what you didn't get in the first half, just classic Wolverine. You know, he's like uncovered and he like pops his claws. You know, he doesn't need the crossbow or the holy water grenade. Like, none of that's relevant. I think they really find their footing with this story, and the strength of it makes me question what that first part of the story is doing and its purpose in the narrative of this book and why it's sandwiched into one book. What do you got, Matt?
I believe, to buttress your point, I think the second story is the one Percy wanted to write, and the first story is the one that he had to write.
That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, I genuinely felt like there was in the second story a lot more just heart from the writer.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not to say the first story was necessarily going through the motions or anything like that.
Yeah.
But you can tell Percy had a hell of a fun time writing that second story.
Oh, yeah. I mean, without a doubt.
Who wouldn't? It's Wolverine just dicing the shit out of vampires.
Yeah.
When you first see it, it's called the catacombs because they go into the catacombs where there's like 6 million skeletons buried. You know, that's where this pool is happening. But there's an introduction page that says issue 1 in catacombs. And then you go back to part A and there's another intro page where it says issue 1 and it has a name for that Krakoa story. I don't get that. You know, with this separation like that, I'm not buying it because these books have played tricks on us before. They're hiding stuff in all of these pages, like, and I'm not buying for a second that these are two separate but ongoing narratives. They're merging somehow, and I think that's the question.
I buy that.
Yeah, the Illuminati is real, according to Nick, and how Marvel pans out its stories. No, it's fine. It's fine.
Like, maybe
that was some good shade. I'm not gonna lie.
Like, it might be wishful thinking that stronger story can somehow bring in the weaker story. But like, if not, you know, what do you have? Like this, you know, 5-6 issues of this story that people are gonna be tired of? Nah.
No, for sure. I mean, and that was my thing, is like the second story was like so strong. It was like, and especially with the ending, it's like, how do you keep this up without fatigue after a couple of issues? I mean, especially for me, like we talked about Krakoa fatigue. It's like, oh my God, you know, this thing here, you know, we're going to talk, you know, about an X book. Oh, Krakoa, the first page. And now we could be talking about Wolverine. Oh, the first page, he's battling vampires. It was great 5 issues ago, but Wolverine number 12, he's still battling Dracula. Kind of. It was cool, you know, 6 months ago. But
it could be. And I mean, one thing we can say, I think, about both of these stories is that Benjamin Percy clearly gets Wolverine as a character and has a great affection for him. And I think that shines through in different ways in both stories.
Yeah.
Like, the vampire story is predominantly Wolverine the badass, you know? And there's a lot more stronger, subtle character beats in story 1.
Mm-hmm.
Just like that moment where he's sitting down with Kitty and you know,
scotch and stuff
playing,
like that over the table.
playing hide and seek, or what amounted to hide and seek with the little kids, just things like that. And it speaks to the dual nature of Wolverine in general, because depending on who's writing him over the years, he's either kind of a Ronin type character trying to always tamp down the beast within, or, you know, if you're Mark Millar, F it, he's just going to kill 2,000 hand ninjas, and like the X-Men are going to lightly laugh about it. So, to give you two extremes, God, I hate that story.
Well, let me go ahead and X that off my my show notes right there that you already talked about Millar, but no, thanks there. That's fine. So.
But anyway, there's just so many different facets to this character, and I think in its own roundabout, possibly planned, maybe unplanned way, this first issue really was able to hit on all sides of Wolverine. I mean, tell me if you think I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just rambling.
No, I mean, for me, it was, it's a Wolverine book. I may not be, 100% on the first story, but I'm not totally negative on the first story. Regardless of what you think of the first story versus the second story, I think Percy really shined on his talents of separating Wolverine and how he is kind of depicted through different emotions and just being Wolverine. I mean, we see different sides of him, especially in the second story when Omega Red is re-delivered to us, right? I mean, obviously no foe greater to Wolverine than Omega Red, but
Sabretooth.
Right, it could be Sabretooth, but I'm an Omega Red guy, so we'll go with that.
I love Omega Red, but no one great. Come on.
Sabretooth. Yeah. Sabretooth. Maybe that could be a different show.
Exhibit. No, you're right. It's Sabretooth.
No, but I just think overall, I just think this book was a very textbook Wolverine book. But however, I think Marvel did an outstanding job of bringing together a creative team that really captured Wolverine. Percy did a great job. I mean, come on, it once again, like we talked about last week about Bagley drawing Venom and Spider-Man. You want Kubert drawing your Wolverine. There's artists that really capture Wolverine. And for me, it's Kubert, it's Quapel, and Ultimate, it's Buscemi with Wolverine number 8. If you haven't seen that cover, I mean, Wolverine number 8, it's plain, but it's him, it's Hulk, it's awesome. And I just think that this art, it's who you want doing a Wolverine book, and overall,
I definitely agree with you on that.
Yeah, I mean, overall, you cannot deny Kubert doing Wolverine or doing an X book. I mean, let's take it back to when we were teenagers, or let me show my age. And when I was a teenager and we were doing, when Kubert was hooking up with Larry Hama and did, Wolverine 75 and did that strand of,
man,
yeah,
those were scary times.
Yeah. I mean, let's not, go into that realm.
Wolverine number 100 where he lost his nose.
Yeah. Right. I mean, Fatal Attractions.
I mean, that's beautiful in that comic.
I will forever champion that time frame of Kubert and Hama. But yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, and please, folks that watch the podcast, please don't take this as a neg to this book. This book is really good. This book is a Wolverine book. Just from beginning to end, this is a Wolverine book. And it just depends on how you like your Wolverine. It's going to be like, do you want your Wolverine medium rare, or do you want your Wolverine rare, side of mashed potatoes? Do you do a baked potato, whatever? But, Wolverine 1 really good. Definitely check it out. And this was everything that was said on here is definitely not a neg, because this book is good. I mean, even there's stuff that I liked about the first book that I didn't like about the first book, but loved about the second book. But overall, Wolverine 1, the best is back. I mean, let's just enjoy this and rejoice that our favorite Canuck is back, because this guy right here in coastal Virginia definitely has it on his pull, and is going to definitely talk about this book for many more episodes. Definitely.
Hell yeah, Mike. I don't think Nick or I have much to add to that. Nick, I don't want to put words in your mouth there, but
no,
that was kind of a perfect summary to me.
Yeah, I think he said it all. Check it out.
Sweet. Yes, absolutely. So, Wolverine #1, best is back from Marvel Comics.
Yes.
Don't let the price tag scare you. It's worth every penny.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
even the variant covers, it doesn't matter. I mean, just buy this book. It doesn't matter if you buy the variant covers, regular covers. Wolverine 1, buy the book. Plain and simple.
Absolutely. Can't miss it, man. All right. Well, it's really hot and itchy in that thing. And it's hard to see. So let's get into our final segment as we round out the hour. What have you been reading? What have you been looking forward to? Nick, you've got the short end of the stick this week. I want you to expound as much as you possibly can in this segment.
Oh no, it's something that I have been looking forward to talking about all week, probably, because I finally got into Hack Slash from Tim Seeley. Oh, it is good. So this is like why I read comics. I mean, the premise, I'm standing at Excalibur Comics in Shreveport. Shout out. Check them out. Great shop. A huge trade section, and they've got all 6 friggin' omnibuses of Hack Slash. So I pull it out, and it's Cassie Hack is the horror babe that survives all the slashers, who comes back to fight against and kill all of the other slashers and killers in horror universes. So you've got her surviving Friday the 13th, Halloween, and now she's tracking down all of these slashers and going at them horror style, and it is amazing. Like, Tim Seeley kind of got started in this, and then his indie-owned project, they just did a 15th anniversary. They've been trying to do a movie on it. I tweeted that they've got to team up with Blumhouse and do a live action film. So the producers at Blumhouse are commenting saying that they wish they could do it, and that I got the feeling that they've talked about it, but it's something I don't see a lot of people talking about. Hack Slash has been going for a long time. There's crossovers with The Crow, Chucky, Reanimator, like all the classic horror stories that you want to see. Gotta talk about this more and make that movie happen finally. But I kind of dove into that, and alongside District X, I think I talked a little bit about it last week. We're doing a review with Cody, also at Comic Watch. We're gonna have a Sunday Classics take on District X that will definitely be worth checking out. We're having a good conversation about it, and I think it'll be interesting to dive into. So it might be something to revisit. As far as what I'm looking forward to, kind of a light week. I think this week was pretty great as far as a lot of different releases from Big Two to even indie. But I'm going to go ahead and shout out Zenoscope Comics for what I'm looking forward to. Doing cool things with Grim Fairy Tales. They've got a new lead pretty much in Sky, taking over after her mother kind of went AWOL and gone. A lot of cool horror stuff, Monster Planet's happening. Just really cool stuff that I think plays in the horror genre just as well and worth checking out. You got Wolverine and vampires. Get some hack slash and slashers. And, you got to check out all the horror stuff that's going on. I think it's great shit right now.
Sweet. I love it. And I had no idea that's what the premise of Hack Slash was. Definitely, I've been cognizant of its existence, but knew nothing about it. So yeah, that kind of sounds like something that might be right up my alley. I'll have to take your recommendation on that.
Please.
Awesome sauce. So Mike, what have you been reading?
Continuing with my Venom, surprise, surprise. We have gotten into the Death Vault here. Basically, what it is it was originally collected as Avengers, I believe Avengers Death Vault, but the premise is the Avengers is they're trapped in a maximum security vault, and they're going against all the Marvel supervillains, obviously Venom, Radioactive Man, Claw, Rhino, and they're just kind of trying to break free. And how the Earth's mightiest heroes kind of survive this ordeal. Basically, from last week, I was going through some earlier Venom, some earlier Kate's Venom, and kind of found myself going through some stuff that I haven't really read for years, really, and especially some stuff especially as some stuff like this. Let me get on here. That I haven't really read since a teenager, or haven't really just put in a box or on a shelf, and you really just forgot about it. But like, God, it was a really great story, or a really good story. So we're kind of revisiting some older Venom stuff, from the 90s, from the stuff, and obviously Venom from the 90s. It was you had 3 issues here, 4 issues here, nothing really solid, but some really good stuff. But and the stuff that I'm finally looking forward to is if we can finally produce a Jennika 1 from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles lore, Jennika 1 from that limited series. Nick, I saw that semi-cringe of a smile. Yes, I talk a lot of the Turtles and IDW, but you know what? I've been reading them for so many years, and especially when Jennika came about, and she is finally getting her series, and we're going to dive into her past, and we're going to really kind of get into who Jennika is, and especially who Jennika is now post being morphed into a turtle, which is funny, obviously, for our watchers who aren't following the current line of the TMNT line from IDW, but I highly recommended the issues, at least leading up to 100, to where Sophie Campbell has taken full control of the writing. But yeah, Jennika 1 is definitely something that I'm looking forward to, rehashing some Venom. Yeah, that's what we're into right now. We're on this side of the world.
Awesome. So I read a bunch of cool stuff this week. I read the first volume from Aftershock Comics of A Walk Through Hell by Garth Ennis and Goran Sudzuka. Very cool stuff. Kind of, it's got elements of both suspense and horror in it. It's almost impossible to describe the premise without spoiling it, but long story short, 2 FBI agents walk into a warehouse and never come out again. And there's a lot of bad things happening. It's actually really cool, very moody, atmospheric type horror, if that's your jam. It's Garth Ennis, so there's lots and lots of crazy, messed up things going on in there. But he kind of eschews his normal hit you over the head with it style and opts for a far more just creeping, sinister vibe that works really, really well. I believe this series ran for 12 issues. The trade I got collected the first 5, and very much worth your time to check out. I also checked out, I know I don't normally do two, but I'm going to throw this out there really quick. The first volume of Stumptown by Greg Rucka.
Very nice.
Show on ABC right now. If I can just pimp that a little bit, it's an awesome show starring Kobe Smulders, who we all know and love as Maria Hill from the Marvel movies. And the original comic source speaks to all of Greg Rucka's strengths as a writer. It's detective mystery and crime, noir, just awesome stuff. It's like a $10 trade. Just go buy the damn thing. They're in all the bookstores right now because of the show. Doing yourself a major disservice if you don't. So what am I looking forward to? I'm going to give my nod to Justice League Dark. Number 2. Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Ooh, I didn't see that one coming
Dark
out.
Number 2.
Yeah, right. I was like,
gotta check the issue
out of
number.
left field.
Yeah. Hey, look, this has been an awesome book from DC, and this is author Ram V's first issue of it. He's bringing Animal Man into the fray. Hell yeah. Love me some Buddy Baker. And he's got big shoes to fill because James Tynion IV just absolutely crushed this series from issue 1. So I'm really excited to see what happens next in this book because I'm sure it's going to be great.
Yeah.
But hey, that's me for this week. That's you guys for this week. We want to thank you very much for listening to episode 67 of the Comic Watcher Show, which is, of course, a part of the Comic Watch family. We are available on Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, the YouTube. And we just really thank you guys for listening. I just want to say that this podcast and our website itself are really starting to grow by leaps and bounds. And that's really because of passionate, supportive fans like you. And, just thank you guys very much for the love you're really starting to show our goofy little our podcast. So we'll be back next week with more comical book goodness. Until then, support your local comic shop and
absolutely
be good. Read some funny books.